Hi guys, today we are having a look at making your own butter. I was lucky enough to pick up all this markdown cream, which I absolutely love. So I'm just going to quickly show you how easy it is to make your own butter. I've just poured in there a 600 gram container of cream, full cream, and I'm just going to whip that up for 2.5 minutes. And once that's done, I'll just show you that is what you're going to end up with. So that's just sitting there draining, and you can see that all the beautiful buttermilk is draining out into the bowl. That will definitely be kept. And I'm using actually 2 ThermoMix machines today to do a huge amount of butter, but this honestly takes under 5 minutes if you just have the one machine. I'm just using 2 because I have so many to do. So I've just brought my butter over to my second machine now. I've got one churning and one washing today, so I'm just going to wash that butter in just some cold water for a minute, and that's it. The butter is finished. There's some more beautiful buttermilk. There is my absolute mountain of butter, which I'll pop in the freezer. And now we're going to get on to why we are making butter. So first, let's have a look at the cost savings. So $3 to purchase your cream at full price, and $5 to purchase your butter. So making this in bulk is going to save you a huge amount of money, especially if you can find cream markdown, which is the best cream to use for making butter. Having already saved money on your butter, let's have a look at the buttermilk. That's become very, very popular, and it's very common to be used in pancakes and marinades and many other things. Let's have a look at buying buttermilk. If you look up the top here, it's showing you the ingredients. You're paying nothing more for skim milk and a culture in your buttermilk from the supermarket. This is not real buttermilk. Real buttermilk offers you more health benefits and vitamins and many things that you'll be missing out from. So utilizing the leftover buttermilk here is absolutely gold. So if you don't enjoy paying $4.58 a litre for pretend buttermilk or glorified skim milk, making your own butter means you can utilize the beautiful side product of your butter, which is the buttermilk. Just referring to Healthline, buttermilk today consists mostly of water, the milk sugar lactose, and the milk protein casein. So using your buttermilk in marinades is going to tenderize your meat, and in your baked goods it's going to accelerate the fluffiness and lightness by reacting with your already ingredients to increase them to be working even better for you. So those are some of the cost savings. We're also going to have a look at some nutrition information around having your own buttermilk and what it means to be making your own butter and comparing that to store-bought. This graphic here shows you what you should be expecting from your buttermilk. So a nice amount of protein in there and carbohydrates, 8 grams of protein and 12 grams of carbs. But moving down the bottom there to some riboflavin, vitamin B12, and other vitamins to be supporting your immune system is fantastic to be taking advantage of those while you're cooking your food. The next graphic here also talks about how buttermilk is easier to digest for your system, and it can help you support strong bones, and it's also been linked to lowering your cholesterol if you've got some cholesterol problems. So do some research on the benefits of buttermilk and you'll be really surprised at what shows up for you on the internet. I just want to go ahead and show you, once the machine has stopped whipping for 2.5 minutes, that is what your cream now looks like, and you can see all the solids are separated and that beautiful buttermilk is left behind. So I'm just going to tip that now into my strainer. As you saw earlier, there's all that gorgeous buttermilk to be kept and frozen. Keeping all of that, and there is the butter behind, ready to have a wash. First, we're going to have a look at some of the health benefits with margarine. So I'm just going to be picking out a few different types of spreads that I know people are using for their toast and their baking. So having a look at margarine, it says the health benefits of margarine depend on what kind of vegetable oils it contains and how it is processed. There's a few myths around the dangers of margarine, and so I was really interested to read some of these websites. So polyunsaturated fat, margarine might be really high in these fats, but apparently switching polyunsaturated fat for saturated fat has been associated with a 17% risk in heart problems. So saturated fats are ones that seem to be okay, but they are the ones that you want to have a smaller amount of. So polyunsaturated fats are a little better than saturated fats from what I'm understanding. So margarine doesn't cause a problem there. The risk for eating margarine though, that they might be really high in trans fats. So it's the trans fats that seem to be a real problem when you're purchasing margarine. So I will take a couple of margarines from the supermarket shelf and have a look and show you here. But the trans fats are something that they're actually thinking of banning and taking away from everything. It's a formed fat, so it's a side product, whereas the saturated and unsaturated fats are natural fats found within the food. These trans fats are something to be concerned about, so definitely something you want to avoid if you are purchasing margarine. So that was interesting to learn. It does say to look for trans-free fat margarine. I had a really quick look. I couldn't find any at Coles or Woolworths. So if anyone's got recommendation around trans fat-free margarine, I'd be really happy to see it. I am going to go ahead and have a look at Nuttelex, because I know that that's a plant-based margarine or butter. So let's have a look at that one first. So having a look at Nuttelex, this one will be more expensive than making your own butter, and just scrolling through those ingredients, they all look reasonably good, except it does have some preservatives, which is another benefit of making your own butter. Just having a quick look now at a home brand margarine. I know this is going to be very cost effective, but unfortunately what you're paying for is water. The main ingredient there is actually water if you see the ingredients list, and there is also a number of other preservatives in there, quite a few different ingredients which you probably don't need. Natural flavors and colors are something that you don't need to be placing in your body for health reasons. So home brand margarine might be inexpensive, but again, you're paying for water as a main ingredient there. Stepping up to perhaps a more expensive brand of margarine, doesn't seem to have changed the ball game here much. There's still preservatives and natural flavors and water as your second main ingredient. The only thing I can really notice of significance is that there's more oil in this product than your label brand margarine, but there doesn't seem to be any extra health benefits or any other purpose to make that change up to a bigger brand. In fact, I'd probably rather be drinking the water than having all of that oil. Now we're going to have a look at a spreadable butter. So the main ingredient is cream, which is good, but it does have a lot of other mixed up ingredients and preservatives, some flavors and colors that I don't think that you really need to have. But this spreadable butter is actually quite expensive, and you can convert your homemade butter simply by adding about a tablespoon of olive oil to your mix and whipping it back up again, and that way you're avoiding all those preservatives and colours and all those things that you really don't need to be eating. And the last one we're going to have a look at is just the cheapest block butter at Woolies that I saw, and this one is the closest to a homemade butter in my opinion that you can be benefiting from. So it's just cream and salt, that's all, and the smaller amount of ingredients that there are in a product means the cleaner that it is. When you start seeing numbers and colours and natural flavours and all those kinds of things, most of those simply just aren't necessary. And just a little tip, if you don't have any interest in making butter, you could purchase one of those blocks of butter, bring it home, cut it up into a few pieces and just give it a whip up with a little bit of olive oil, and that way you've got a spreadable butter and you're dodging all of those unnecessary nasties that you don't need to be having in your diet. Now I'm just going to show you what the butter looks like after it's had a wash. So you're just wanting to wash away as much of that buttermilk as you possibly can. So I'm just lifting out of the ThermoMix now, and you can see that there's like a cloudy liquid underneath. That liquid just needs to be discarded. You don't need to be keeping any of that. That is not buttermilk. The buttermilk comes out of the first whipping up, not the washed up liquid afterwards. So all of that liquid can just be discarded now, or popped out on your garden perhaps. Now I'm just going to go ahead and weigh out my buttermilk into some Chinese containers. So I'm just using ThermoMix as my scales and just tearing those scales and popping a Chinese container up on top. So I like to keep my buttermilk at 320 grams because it just suits me for a recipe I make regularly that calls for 320 grams. And it's also not too much to be making the container sort of wobbly and overfilled. So 320 grams is what I weigh it out, and then I'll just pop lids on those and freeze them down in the deep freeze. I do like to go ahead and press that butter as much as I can after it's being washed. That's just helping get more buttermilk out of the butter. The more buttermilk you can remove, the longer your butter is going to last. So you can actually wash it a couple of times if you like. I don't. I just freeze mine down so that it never goes off. But the more buttermilk you can remove, the longer your butter will last. It's actually the buttermilk that deteriorates your butter. Now once the butter was made, I did go ahead and divide it up and make a couple of different types. I added some olive oil and some salt to some of my butters. That's just for spreading on sandwiches and things like that. I did go ahead and add some garlic and herbs to some of my butters, and that's what we use for garlic bread, or if we're barbecuing, a little bit of butter on steak, things like that. And then the last little bit of it I kept aside just as plain butter with nothing added at all, and those butters are for baking. I'll just quickly show you how I made the spreadable butter. I've just popped in there a little bit of olive oil. In goes just a little bit of salt, and then I'm just going to whip that up for 5 seconds on speed 4 and see what it looks like. It will depend on how cold your butter is, how long you might like to whip it for. So we'll just do it for 5 seconds and have a look. And that's nearly there, but I just wanted it a little bit lighter. So I'm just going on for another 10 seconds. And then I'll give you a look at what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a spreadable butter. So it's nearly done. And I'll just give that a check, and that's perfect. See how it's all light and creamy and stuck around the edges and all combined? That's perfect. If you'd like it even easier to spread, just a little bit more olive oil and see how it's shiny. That's what it should look like. So it depends on you and what you're looking for out of your butter, but that is how you can make a spreadable butter at home. And there's all the buttermilk. That's how I stack them in the freezer. So all in 320 gram containers. So they're off to the deep freeze, ready for when I'm going to marinate or bake. And then there's most of my butter. Sadly, I didn't get a photo of my herb butter, but that's all the butter. For those of you interested in the financial gain of my efforts today, my total spend on that markdown cream was $21.60. Now, this took me around an hour and a quarter to do. And the buttermilk, I ended up with 6 litres of buttermilk, and to buy that, and remembering it's not even real buttermilk, would have cost me $29.10. The butter itself, I ended up with 21 tubs of 500 gram butters, and the value there for me was $105. So that's going to last me quite a while, and has saved a significant amount of money. So overall, making my homemade butter, this is using markdown cream, has saved me a massive $122.50. So the next time you say to yourself, no, I don't have time to make butter, just ask yourself, if someone asked you if you wanted to earn $50 an hour by standing in your kitchen, that's actually nearly $100 an hour in my opinion, would you say yes? Just for being in your kitchen just for an hour, just to save yourself $122. I know I would, and it's actually a heap of fun knowing what you're eating, what your children are eating, what your family's eating, and being organised. So just a few nutrition facts around butter, because there's a lot of confusion around butter and whether it's good for you or not good for you. There is nutrition in butter. You do get vitamin A, E, B and K. I am only quoting from the website healthline.com.au, so always follow your doctor's advice if you've got specific health concerns. But butter does actually provide some nutrition. So the largest concern for butter used to be that it was high in saturated fat. Now, these myths have been dispelled. Butter has a good amount of saturated fat, and the problem seems to be coming from overconsumption. So having small amounts of butter in moderation is actually quite okay and good for your body. So there it is there. For decades, butter has been demonized for high saturated content. It's composed of around 50%. And studies have shown that there is no link between heart problems and actually eating butter. It's more about the overconsumption of butter. So butter actually provides really good flavour to your dishes. So as long as you are eating butter in moderation, it's actually quite good for you, and there doesn't need to be any reason to avoid it or stop having it, unless of course you have advice from your doctor to stop it. So I just thought I would show you a few graphics around the nutrition of butter, and you can make up your own mind whether you have diet butter in your diet or you dodge it altogether. Totally up to you. But I do think it's better for you than having the flavours and preservatives and many of the other things that you can find in your supermarket products. I am a consultant for ThermoMix. If you'd like a cooking experience, please call out. I do virtual ones, or I can link you with another consultant to do an in-home. You can also purchase ThermoMix from my description bar down below if you feel ready. Feel free to follow me on Facebook, Mix with Tiff, or over at Instagram, ThermoMix with Tiff. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video today, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more ThermoMix and ThermoMix content. Thank you for watching, and have a beautiful day. Bye.